morning. Good morning. Could somebody confirm that you can hear me?
Yes, we can. Good morning.
Yes.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Hi.
Warmly welcome all of you. 开始吧 Let's start.
Good morning to all of you. Good morning.
Good morning, Ambassador.
Good to see you. See all of you.
Thank you. Yes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, before we officially open the forum, I'd like to share some housekeeping tips. First of all, on behalf of the host, I would like to extend the warmest welcome to you all to the 17th annual session of Global Forum on Human Settlements. My name is Christine, and many of you already know me. I will be the administrator for the following two-day forum. With the world facing unprecedented and irreversible as well as accelerating climate change. So moving fast towards carbon neutrality at the city level shall be one of the most urgent tasks to take on. So simply curbing carbon emissions is no longer enough to halt the impact on our cities and communities. So according to the new analysis, nearly half of global cities do not have adaptation plans to protect the people and critical infrastructure from climate crisis, especially in developing countries. So on the race to net zero, adaptation and mitigation should be attributed with equal weight, and both are time sensitive in today's climate crisis. Moving forward, the future of cities needs to be nature positive, as cities need nature to thrive. So accelerating local action is the most important piece to address both climate emergency as well as nature loss. So GFHS 2022 is dedicated to rally main stakeholders at the local level and to call for an urgent transformation of societies in a collective way towards a resilient, carbon neutral, and nature positive future. Let me just quickly share my screen. So the two-day forum will address the topics including resilient cities and coastal areas, including policies, technologies, and practices, transformative action and technology towards green energy transition, sustainable waste management for circular economy, and zero waste cities, scale up nature-based solutions in cities, integrated water resources management, healthy, smart, and zero carbon buildings and communities, climate finance, sustainable urban food systems, people-friendly urban public spaces. So for the program arrangement today, we have 4 plenary sessions, including opening, keynote speech, high-level dialogue, as well as layers panel. Tomorrow we'll have 6 parallel sessions, closing session, and award ceremony. So all plenary sessions, parallel session A, closing session, and award ceremony tomorrow evening will be on room A, where we are now. Session B for tomorrow will be on room B with another meeting ID and passcode. Please refer to the agenda for more information. At the same time, simultaneous interpretation between Chinese and English will be available throughout the two-day meeting. So please make sure you are on the right language channel by clicking the tab interpretation at the bottom of your software and select English or Chinese. Please type in your full name when logging in. Do not leave it blank or use any nickname. Finally, when it comes to Q&A session, if you want to ask questions, please click participants at the bottom of the screen and click more. Then click raise hand or just send your questions in the chat box. So the moderator will choose and ask you to unmute and open your video. You just need to accept and start speaking. When you are not speaking, please make sure the microphone symbol is red with a slash symbol, which means it is muted. Please introduce first your name, your organization, and where you are based, and then present your question briefly. So we look forward to hearing your valuable insights, observations, and actions on the ground. I wish you all a fruitful discussion in the following 2 days. Well, without further ado, I'm very pleased to give the virtual floor to Dr. Stefan Allenbrock, Director of Hydrology, Water, and Biosphere at the World Meteorological Organization, who is going to moderate the opening. Hand over to you, Stefan.
Thank you so much, Christine. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. It's really a pleasure to welcome you this morning. It's quite early here in Europe, but good afternoon good afternoon, and I believe it's in the middle of the night in the United States. My name is Stefan Ullenbrock. I'm with the World Meteorological Organization, where I'm the Director for Hydrology, Water, and Cryosphere. Allow me a few words just to frame the session and to try to summarize the main objectives, what brings us together today. As we are entering the third year of the COVID pandemic, the world is still trapped in multiple emergencies, most notable climate change, but also biodiversity loss, energy security, food and nutrition security, the economic crises that we feel in many parts of the world, which also leads to conflict and violence. When it comes to sustainable development goals, for some 8 years ago, almost 8 years ago, we started with a lot of enthusiasm, but almost half time now, we have to realize that the world is often lagging behind in a number of these goals. For instance, in the water goal, SDG 6, where we are quite involved, or also in the climate goal, we're not only lagging behind, we're partly off track. So really, we're developing in the wrong direction. So it's not going in the right direction in many of the sub goals and targets. Also, we have an urban planet, and cities always have been the main battleground for the above mentioned crises, and they're absolutely critical to achieve a more sustainable future. The GFHS, now this year, I think it's the third time in a row, really provides a good opportunity to discuss how can we achieve carbon neutrality and advance to a more digital and more sustainable economy. The organizers of this event put out quite some ambitious objectives that we will try to achieve in the coming 2 days. And these include, first, to facilitate a productive conversation, but also not conversation only, ideally also facilitate a conversation that leads to action, to substantial action, to make steps into the right direction, that we are not off track anymore, that we really develop to a more sustainable future, particularly in urban settlements. Second is to provide policy recommendation and advance the guidance we can provide in the use and development of technology. Third, to create synergies between all parties and to foster sustainable partnerships. And number 4 is to recognize and to promote best practices. These are the ambitious objectives for this conference today, and we have an exciting panel of opening speakers in this opening session today. And first, I would like to give the word to Ambassador Anvul Chaudhuri. His Excellency Chaudhuri is the chairman of the Global Forum on Human Settlements, and he's also the former UN Under-Secretary General and High Representative. Ambassador Chaudhuri, the word is yours.
Thank you very much, and my warmest greetings to all the distinguished participants. It is, if in Europe it's early, in New York it is 1 a.m. in the morning. It is the city which is proud to be a city where people do not sleep, and it also hosts the United Nations. In my capacity as the chairman of the Global Forum on Human Settlements, I extend a very warm welcome to all the participants who have joined us from various parts of the globe at the 17th Annual Conference of the Global Forum on Human Settlements, being held virtually. This is the third consecutive virtual conference for us since 2020. I extend a very special welcome to the distinguished mayors and other city representatives who are gracing our session. I appreciate the value and value the presence of several key participants who would share their expertise and experience with the forum participants. Among them are Professor Petteri Talas, Secretary General of World Meteorological Organization, Dr. Simon Steele, Executive Secretary of the UN Framework Convention on the Climate Change Secretariat. He will give us a video message, I understand. Mr. Kazushige Endo, Director, United Nations Center for Regional Development in Japan. Dr. Stephanos Fatu, Director, Office of Sustainable Development Goals in FAO. And Mr. Wang Xiaozong, Director of the China Energy Research Cooperation Center. Allow me also to convey on behalf of GFHS my sincere thanks to all co-organizers and collaborators for their huge support to the Global Forum. There are as many as 24 organizations, including 10 UN agencies, entities, and other partner organizations with whom the Global Forum worked together to successfully organize this 17th annual conference. Last but not the least, I'm delighted to say that I'm joined this morning by my Global Forum colleagues, Taj Hamad, our dear Vice Chairman, Lu Haifong, our dynamic Secretary General, and Christine He, our hardworking Deputy Secretary General, who opened the meeting by some housekeeping announcements. Over the past 17 years, Global Forum has been providing a platform for high-level dialogue on urban issues and promoting sustainable cities and human settlements for all. Our theme for this conference is, and I quote, "Together for a shared, safer, and greener urban future, resilient, carbon neutral, and nature positive cities," end of quote. Last month, the world's population surpassed its 8 billion mark. It is projected that globally, urbanization levels will rise dramatically in less than 3 decades to reach 70% by 2050. We thus live at a time of unprecedented, rapid, irreversible urbanization. As we all acknowledge, the new urban agenda adopted at the UN conference in Quito, Ecuador in 2016 is about people, planet, prosperity, peace, and partnership in urban settings. Habitat destruction is one of the biggest challenges that the world is facing now. The theme for this year's World Habitat Day was, and I quote, "Mind the gap, leave no one and place behind," end of quote, focusing on the growing inequalities and challenges in cities and human settlements. On that day, Secretary General of the United Nations said, reflecting the global reality, that, and I quote, "Today, over 1 billion people live in overcrowded settlements with inadequate housing, end of quote. It is now universally accepted that sustainable development hinges on fate of the world's cities. The international community is valuing the growing importance of cities and local governments. The new urban agenda recognizes the essential role of local governments in advancing sustainable development, driving climate action, and building an inclusive and resilient future for all. The role of cities in tackling global challenges has enhanced their legitimacy within the international arena. Evaluating the challenges during 5 years since the adoption of the new urban agenda, this year, UN experts identified the following manifestations. 1, urban areas are increasingly epicenters of crisis, insecurity, and violence, fueling displacement and forced migration. 2, housing remains largely unaffordable, both in the developing and developed worlds. 3, feminization of urban poverty. Female-headed households in slums and informal settlements are growing. All of these forms of exclusion disproportionately affect women, youth, older generations, and migrants. A gendered perspective of urban poverty highlights the fundamental issues of equality and social justice by showing women's unequal position in the urban labor market, their ability to secure assets independently from male relatives, and their greater exposure to violence. 4, accelerating urban action for a carbon-free world. As cities are responsible for some 70% of carbon dioxide emissions, 11,000 cities have committed to developing comprehensive climate action plans under the Global Covenant of Mayors for Climate and Energy to create sustainable, carbon neutral, inclusive cities and towns. I would encourage the participating mayors and other city leaders at this conference to join this initiative in increasing numbers. With the urban population of the world set to escalate over the next few decades, it has become even more important to understand the role of cities in the area of climate change and reducing carbon emissions. It goes without saying that local democracy, coupled with good governance at the local levels, is a key factor for the brighter future of all cities. When states treat local authorities as partners and allow urban residents a voice in the way their streets, stores, and workplaces are managed, cities are usually more efficient and livable. Such cities in turn enhance democracy nationally and make local and national economies stronger. The theme of this year's World Urban Forum very appropriately was, and I quote, transforming our cities for a better urban future, end of quote. In his quadrennial report issued in March 2022, this year, on progress in the implementation of new urban agenda 2019 to 2022, issued in by the Secretary General of the United Nations, Antonio Guterres, and he identified new urban agenda as an accelerator of global development agendas. The UN General Assembly has highlighted the contribution of the new urban agenda to the localization of the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development, showing how these two global agendas are intertwined and mutually reinforcing. I have the pleasure to inform you about my keynote address at the 10th General Conference of Mayors for Peace, an organization which has more than 8,200 cities from all parts of the world, in Hiroshima, Japan, last October. The title of my keynote speech was, and I quote, Advancing the Culture of Peace to Create a Better World with Communities at the Center, end of quote. In the last 2 decades, cities and urban communities have become the dominant driving force for human development. The new urban agenda called on, yes.
It's super exciting, your speech, but we have a number of speakers lined up in this opening session, and it would be important to keep the time, sir. If you could kindly round it up, please.
I think as a chairman, I have some extra minutes to conclude my speech. Please don't disturb me like this. The new urban agenda called on the cities to enhance social and intergenerational interactions and foster social cohesion, inclusion, and safety in peaceful and pluralistic societies. It further called on the cities to achieve gender equality and empower all women and girls by ensuring women's full and effective participation and equal rights in all fields and in leadership at all levels of decision making. It also reflected the commitment of the cities to ensure human development and build peaceful, inclusive, and participatory societies, as well as promote living together, connectivity, and social inclusion. Let me conclude by underscoring that sustainable urban development is one of the most pressing challenges facing the human community in the 21st century. As more and more people make cities their home, cities will be the arenas in which some of the world's biggest social, economic, environmental, and political challenges will be faced and need to be addressed collectively. As such, the leadership role of mayors and city governments is of fundamental importance. It is also significant that GFHS has, since its establishment, been focusing on these challenges at each of its annual conferences. The current 17th annual conference of the Global Forum is again another timely and relevant gathering that is aimed at making the international community alert and proactive on global habitat agendas. I thank you.
Thank you so much, Your Excellency. This was a very enlightening introduction to this conference and very comprehensive. Thank you very much. We will now continue to move on to the next speaker of the opening session, and it's a distinct pleasure to introduce Professor Petri Talas as the next speaker. Professor Talas is the Secretary General of the World Meteorological Organization here in Geneva, and I hand over the word to the SG of WMO. Please, Petri.
Thank you, Stefan, and good morning. Good, very early morning from Geneva. It's still very dark here, but it seems that somewhere else it's already sunlight. So I will share some slides to show you some facts about the topic that we are dealing with today, and I will go briefly through set of slides, show you what we know and also the mitigation perspective.
We can see the slides.
You can see them.
Yes.
Great. Okay, excellent. So, from my side, I would like to say that that WMO is the United Nations Specialized Agency on Weather, Climate, and Water, and we are also in charge of running IPCC, which is the United Nations Organization on Climate Science, and we are also specializing on water-related issues. And if you look at the things that are worrying.
Sorry to interrupt, Professor Talas. Can you please put the slides into slideshow mode? Slideshow and full screen.
Can you see it now?
Not yet.
Okay.
Just click the
We see the PowerPoint window, but not in presentation mode.
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry. Then I have to try again. Let's try again. So can you see it now?
No, not yet.
Okay, on my computer I can see it in the normal mode. Let's try again.
I'm so sorry.
So can you see the slides or not?
I'm so sorry. Do you have two screens, maybe? Maybe that is the problem, that you're sharing the wrong screen. So now
I will connect again. I will connect again. So let's try. So
at the moment, our colleague Maria is sharing the. Ah, yeah, now perfect.
Yeah, it's coming. Okay, wonderful. Okay, go ahead.
Perfect. Thank you. I'm afraid I cannot hear you, Professor Talas. I'm not sure if that is true for all participants. Professor Thalas, are you still connected? I'm afraid you disconnected.
I was reconnecting, so
Okay.
I'm trying to say this, but I think it's can you see the screen or not?
Yes, we can. We see your first slide.
Okay, is somebody operating them for me?
Maria
sending
is
them by-
operating them in the background. Yeah.
Okay, let's go to the next one. Okay, next one. Great. So I was just saying that climate change is also a major economic issue, and it's a major threat for the economy for the coming 10 years. And also this extreme weather that we are talking about is also highly on the global economic agenda. Next, please. So we have seen warming of the temperatures, and the warming is much more felt in cities as compared to the rural areas. The amount of concrete and asphalt and so forth means that the numbers that we have seen, they are much higher in the cities, and also the impacts of extreme weather, they are felt very different in cities. Next, please. And sea level rise, we have seen about 30 centimeters sea level rise so far, and it has been speeding up, and there's a risk that we would see much more massive sea level rises during the coming 200 years. NASA has estimated that there's even a risk of 10 meters sea level rise if the Antarctic glacier melting is happening in a more speedy manner than estimated so far. But the conservative estimate is about 0.5 meter to 1 meter per century, and this is of course threatening many big cities and human settlements in the coastal areas. Next, please. And we have started seeing also a speeding up of the melting of the glacier, which means that we are getting less and less fresh water to the rivers worldwide, and this is also causing local flooding problems. Next, please. And we have been consuming the groundwater resources in a growing manner, and that means that we have seen negative trends in groundwater sources, for example, in populated areas in Asia, Europe, and also in both Americas, and that's going to be a fairly soon a major problem. Next, please. And this is an estimation of what's going to happen if we reach 3 degrees to global yield. We will have difficulties in feeding the growing population of the planet, and at the moment we are heading towards 2.5 to 3 degrees warming. And so with the current emission levels, this is very relevant scenario for the future. So the most part of the world will lose their yield because of that, and it's very much because of drying of the planet. Next, please. And population growth is also one of the challenges. At the same time, we are moving more to the cities, and in some parts of the world, this is more extreme. It's Africa, Middle East, and Central Southern Asia, where this is a challenge, and this is also a water challenge, and it's also a food challenge, as I already mentioned. Next, please. We have seen increases in main greenhouse gas concentrations year by year, and so far we haven't seen any improvement in real atmosphere, as you can see from this image. Next, please. And if you look at the relative importance of the gases, it's very much carbon dioxide, which is coming from the consumption of fossil fuels. There's a component coming from land use, especially deforestation, and then third is methane. Next, please. And if you look at the global map where the emissions are coming from, Eastern Asia and North America are the dominant ones, and about 80% of the emissions are coming from G20 countries, and 1/3 is coming from G7 and European Union countries, and they have already made commitments to reach 1.5 degrees. But unfortunately, especially these East Asian countries haven't been able to do so far. Next, please. And here you can see the magnitudes of emissions coming from power production, which is number 1, and transport is number 2, and then thereafter industry. And in those sectors, we have the major challenges in mitigation. Next, please. And we should bend this energy use for various sectors, where at the moment 85% is based on fossil energy and only 15% is based on nuclear, hydro, and renewables. And we should bend those numbers during the coming decades to be successful in climate mitigation. Next, please. And IPCC was listing in their working group 3 report the means to be successful in mitigation. And in energy sector, we have solar and wind energy as good means, and also in transport sector, we have lots of these blue bars indicating that transport sector altogether can have a big role. And then this land use is number 3. Next, please. And from our side, we are now improving the climate resilience of countries by improving the early warning services, and we got the mandate from Secretary General Guterres to prepare an action plan that in 5 years we would have 100% of coverage of early warning services. Today it's only 50%. Many less developed countries don't have proper early warning services. Next, please. And we have this plan, which was heavily endorsed by the past COP27. Next, please. And we have to improve the basic observing systems, early warning skills, and also preparedness and response capabilities of countries, and make sure that the warnings are disseminated and communicated in a proper manner. Next, please. And finally, I would like to say that there's also need to have better climate scenarios for the future. With the current climate models, we are not able to predict what's going to happen to the extreme events and, for example, melting of Antarctic glacier. And that's why we are promoting kilometer scale climate modeling center establishment, and that's one of the challenges for the science community. I will stop here to save some time for other speakers, but thanks for the opportunity to address you, and I would like to wish you most successful conference.
Thank you very much, Professor Thallas. This was very, very interesting. Thank you for this big overview around atmospheric developments, water, etc. So very, very helpful to frame this session. Colleagues, we have to move on, and the next speaker will be the Executive Secretary of the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change, Dr. Simon Steele. Mr. Steele unfortunately could not be here in person at this time of the day, and therefore he recorded a brief video message, and I would like to invite the organizers now to play the video.
Dr. Manainkova, esteemed colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, it is my pleasure to share a virtual stage with such a distinguished group of climate and development experts at this occasion. Since 2005, this forum has been providing an essential platform for high-level discussions on building sustainable cities and human settlements. It is a remarkable track record of service and education. It is no wonder that we at UN Climate Change remain so supportive of its work. Today, some 56% of the world's population, 4.4 billion people, live in cities. This trend is expected to continue, with the urban population more than doubling by 2050. At which point nearly 7 out of 10 people will live in cities. In light of this reality, the IPCC has also recognized the important role of local governments in delivering climate action. We're increasingly seeing innovative local solutions across the spectrum of climate issues, mitigation, adaptation, as well as the challenges related to loss and damage. This reality is being reflected in the NDC reports we are getting. Although we continue to have grave concerns regarding the overall NDC ambition levels, in over half of the NDC submitted with an adaptation component, we see that urban areas and human habitat appear as key elements. Nearly 80% of the NDCs submitted include mitigation measures for the building sector, covering energy efficiency improvements and shifts to low or zero carbon fuels. Additionally, 80% of the national adaptation plans also identify urban areas and settlements as priorities. And now, COP27 delivered a package of decisions that will benefit the most vulnerable, with cities and towns playing a crucial role in shaping their implementation. The high-level champions and Marrakesh partnership delivered a wide range of initiatives that spanned issues of mitigation, adaptation finance, and equity. Notable among them is the launch of the African Cities Water Adaptation Fund, an African-led insurance commitment to provide cover for up to $14 billion in climate losses, and the Sharm el-Sheikh Adaptation Agenda in partnership with the COP27 presidency. We also saw the convening of the first ever ministerial meeting on urbanization and climate change, focusing on housing and urban development. COP27 reinforced the commitment of the Paris Agreement for multi-level climate action and launched the COP27 Presidential Sustainable Urban Resilience for the Next Generation, an initiative now endorsed by over 100 global partners. Together, with our colleagues at UNEP, we also launched a new 5-year work program to promote climate technology solutions in developing countries. These are all good starts, but we have a very long way still to go. Among other things, we need to be mindful of the complex transformation that is needed when it comes to rural-urban coexistence, particularly in how we take a more holistic approach towards human well-being and conservation of natural ecosystems. As we enter the new phase of implementation of the climate change agenda, we need to ensure that the solutions we consider are reflective of the complexities and demands of addressing different aspects of human settlements. At the UN Climate Change Secretariat, we will continue to strive to achieve this in the work ahead of us. I thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Dr. Steele. This was also very interesting. So in case you see the recording, a big thank you for making the effort to record the video. Unfortunately, couldn't be with you as us this morning. Next speaker will be Dr. Kashwinge Endo. Dr. Endo is the director of the United Nations Center for Regional Development, and I would like to hand over now to Dr. Endo, please.
Thank you, Chair. Can you hear me?
Yes, loud and clear.
Okay. Excellencies, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen, let me start by congratulating all the hosting organizations and the partners for organizing 17th annual session of Global Forum Human Settlement. I am very honored to deliver opening remark. United Nations Center for Regional Development, UNCRD, belongs to UN DESA in New York. Our office is located in Japan, and we are working on a sustainable development areas such as transport, disaster risk reduction, waste management, smart cities, and local SDG actions. A major objective of 17th GFHS annual session is to discuss resilient, carbon neutral, and nature positive cities for safer and greener urban future. This objective is highly relevant to our programs and activities. For example, yesterday we co-organized the International Symposium Transforming Mobility for Humanity with the Club of Roma and other co-organizers. One of the major objectives was to commemorate the 50th anniversary of the report, The Limits to Growth. As you know, the report raised serious concerns about the implication of the growth on Earth's planet. Also, the report called for a strategic approach to sustain growing cities and towns across the world. In the policy discussion, key messages from political leaders and experts provided a deeper philosophy on mobility for humanity from the perspective of inclusiveness and participatory approaches. In the following policy dialogues, the speakers discussed to overcome transport sector issues, including traffic congestions, road accident, energy consumption, and pollution and health. Those discussions aim to achieve accessible, safe, affordable, resilient, low carbon passenger and flight transport, as well as mobility for humanity. I think such discussion results and output are highly relevant to the 17th GFHS annual session. Ladies and gentlemen, this 17th annual conference, UNCLD is responsible for the thematic session 1B, Sustainable Waste Management for Circular Economy and Zero Waste Cities, which we mobilize our resources from the 3R and Circular Economy Forum in Asia and Pacific. We are hosting this forum since 2009 with 35 Asia Pacific member countries. Our 3R and Circular Economy Forum are in the middle of discussion on the new 3R Circular Economy Declaration to be adopted next year, which aim to catalyze transformational changes in the resource and waste management sector in the region. There is a collaborative mechanism between our forum and the United Nations Industrial Development Organization, UNIDO, which recently started the Circular Economy Initiative. The new declaration would be characterized with a zero waste future and more country-based implementation mechanism, which of course is aligned with the objective of the 2030 agenda and sustainable development goals. UNCLD would like to contribute to the 17th GFHS annual session by utilizing our programs and activities to the maximum degree. Finally, I would like to pay my deepest respect to the Global Forum on Human Settlement and co-organizers for organizing such a significant event to discuss critical issues and policy options for resilient, carbon neutral, and nature positive cities. I look forward to working with all of you to support the 17th GFHS annual session. I thank you.
We would like to thank you, Dr. Endo. Thank you very much for the to the point, clear opening remarks. We appreciate your contribution. We have to hand over to the next speaker already, and it's a pleasure to introduce Dr. Stefanos Foutouou. Dr. Futoy is the director of the Office for Sustainable Development Goals at the Food and Agricultural Organizations of the United Nations, the FAO. And the floor is yours, dear Stefanos.
Stefan, thank you very much, and good morning, or very good morning, or good afternoon to all the participants here. It's my real pleasure to be in this forum, and this year with another affiliation. I've been in this forum as UNEP, as ESCAP, and now as FAO, and I'm very pleased to address all of you here. So I would like to highlight a couple of points related to the theme of this year's forum. Food and agriculture is one of the main drivers of greenhouse gas emissions. It's one of the main drivers of biodiversity loss, but at the same time, it's a sector that provides income, provides well-being to hundreds of millions of people, and it's actually the basis of existence, I would say, for hundreds of millions of families. Right now, our food systems are not able to produce enough food, distribute enough food, and at the same time protect the environment. But they have a very big potential to accelerate the Sustainable Development Goals. And I want to refer here to the Global Sustainable Development Report of 2019 that identified food systems and urban and peri-urban systems as two of the 6 accelerators to make the Sustainable Development Goal happen. We listen different numbers. There is a figure saying that cities generate about 60% or are responsible for about 60% of global greenhouse emissions. And there's other estimations that they say food systems and the whole value chain is responsible for about 30% of the global emissions. So have we found here the real answer on what we need to fix? In practical terms, maybe yes. In scientific terms, not absolutely yes, because when we talk about cities and food systems as drivers of emissions, it's not that they are responsible for the emission, but probably they are connected to the use of energy and industrial goods that they are primarily responsible for the greenhouse gas emissions. Almost 3/4 of greenhouse emissions responsible is the energy sector, about 20%, the agri-food sector, 17%, and then industry. But there's a very big need to transform urban food systems, because when we look at the nexus of food systems and urban and peri-urban systems, then we will find a lot of entry points that are related to energy, to industry, so we can fix our systems. So I think that one of the main messages we have here is that we cannot achieve the 2030 agenda, we cannot accelerate the SDGs if we don't look simultaneously at how we will transform our food and our urban and peri-urban systems. In FAO, we are supporting specific work on this area. We have an initiative on green cities, which focuses on improving the urban environment, strengthening urban-rural linkages, and ensuring access to healthy diets from a sustainable agri-food system. And of course, in partnership with other UN agencies, international and local stakeholders, we try to break down the rural-urban divide, because this is an artificial divide, and promote sustainable food systems thinking. In FAO also, we are hosting the UN Food Systems Coordination Hub, which works to support countries in implementing national agri-food system pathways. And we see that many countries, they want to localize these pathways. So I would like to acknowledge the huge importance of the theme of this 17th session of the Global Forum on Human Settlements, and I appreciate the efforts of the forum. You will listen later on the high-level dialogue, more specifics on agri-food systems and urban systems, and I thank you very much for inviting me here.
Thank you very much, Dr. Futoy. Dear Stefanos, a very nice presentation, and we appreciate the bigger picture also with food systems. Thank you so much. We continue with the next speaker of the opening session, and that's Mr. Wang Shangzhou. Dr. Shangzhou is the director of the China Energy Research Society and the Carbon Neutral Industry Cooperation Center. He He was the former director of the Northwest China Energy Regulatory Bureau at the National Energy Administration in China.
Thank you, moderator. Ambassador Chaudhary, dear experts, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. I want to thank Mr. Li Haifeng for the invitation to attend this meeting. In our practice, we care a lot about sustainability and a greener future. I suppose the forum provides a key platform for discussions in that direction. Despite the pandemic, we can still make it to the forum. On behalf of the China Energy Research Society Carbon Neutral Industry Cooperation Center, I want to thank all of you for gathering online. So here, let me share my 2 cents. In China, we have the so-called dual carbon goals, namely our goals regarding carbon peaking and carbon emission and carbon neutrality, actually. So first, I want to say urban low carbon development is a key part of the realization of the dual carbon goals. Green low carbon urban growth is an important means to practice the concept of people-oriented cities and the only way for high quality and sustainable urban growth. We got to focus on the goal of carbon peaking and carbon neutrality. The development of cities must pay more attention to the quality of green low carbon growth. With the development of China's urbanization, China's energy consumption and carbon emissions are more and more concentrated in urban areas. At present, the urbanization rate of China has gone beyond 63%, and nearly 65% of people here live in cities. A large number of end users of energy, commodities, and food are in cities, and the most pollution and emissions are also generated in cities. We can see that cities are the major emitters of carbon, and cities should also assume responsibility for reducing emissions. If cities can realize green, low carbon growth, then China's goals of carbon peaking and carbon neutrality can be achieved on schedule. If we can control emissions in cities, then we have a very promising future of achieving our dual carbon goals. Second, urban low carbon growth needs good ideas and a vision. The dual carbon goals have brought new challenges and also opportunities to urban growth. Building low carbon cities is the only way to go to ensure sustainability in cities. Low carbon growth of cities must reshape the city's economy, citizens' lives, and governance. With low carbon concepts, we gotta develop and transform urban production and urban life with low carbon technologies. That is how we can form a healthy, simple, and low carbon production model, a better lifestyle, and a better, greener consumption pattern. Low carbon growth of cities gotta be guided by the principles of fairness and justice, with the aim of meeting people's needs for a better life. Therefore, the ultimate goal of low carbon and green growth is to create well-being and happiness for people. Therefore, we must adopt sustainable development strategies and promote sustainable green development pattern. In green and low carbon growth of cities, we got to pay attention to the participation of all parties. We got to care about how people feel. We got to care about the heritage and the culture. And we need to have a high degree of empathy with urban dwellers. And it's necessary to continue to enhance planning and overall efforts. We need to get a lot of skills from technologies especially digital technologies. And it's necessary to continue our focus on serving the people. In that aspect, I'm talking about creating a better life in our green development. And we should devote ourselves to building beautiful cities with a booming economy, a green, low carbon, and beautiful environment. And there should be harmonious coexistence between man and nature. Third, I want to talk about some major measures and suggestions for low carbon growth of cities. Low carbon growth should be the guiding principle as we work to protect the ecosystem and optimize the use of resources. We got to have better planning regarding the boundaries of cities.
Second, we need to promote the development of city clusters. City cluster development is a new form and trend of modern urban development, which is conducive to the optimal allocation of production factors in a larger scope and space, and better promotes the comprehensive carrying capacity and influence of the cities. We should actively build green low-carbon city clusters, examine the development orientation of planned cities and regions by transcending administrative concepts, minimize low-level construction and repeated investment, and promote the coordinated development, co-construction and sharing of large, medium, and small cities and towns. Third, promote green construction methods. Based on the requirements of green development, scientific management, and technological innovation, green construction is conducive to resources conservation, environmental protection, emissions reduction, efficiency improvement, and quality assurance, and the harmonious coexistence between man and nature. From planning to construction and delivery, the concept of green development should be fully reflected. Fourth, improve building energy efficiency standards. Improving building energy efficiency should be based on improving advanced building energy efficiency standards. It's necessary to further improve the system of building energy efficiency and green building standards, and actively revise the zero carbon building standards, green building design standards, green building construction quality acceptance standards, and building carbon emission auditing standards, and steadily improve the energy saving standards of public welfare buildings and large public buildings invested by the government. Fifth, comprehensively promote green low carbon materials. Building materials industry is an important sector of basic raw materials. It is also an important link of building carbon emission. It's necessary to increase investment in R&D of green building materials and key technologies, and encourage the development of prefabricated components and parts with excellent performance. Significantly increase the application ratio of green building materials in urban buildings. Promote the popularization and application of product standards for green building materials. Six, deepen the application of renewable energy in building. We should strengthen the application of renewable energy in the urban areas of buildings, effectively reduce our dependence on fossil energy, and reduce carbon emissions in the process of building operation. Firstly, solar energy should be used in buildings. Electricity or heat shall be used, if suitable, based on the conditions of solar energy resources, building utilization conditions, and energy demand. We will promote the application of photovoltaic and photothermal systems. Secondly, renewable energy such as geothermal energy shall be used. Thirdly, electrification level of energy consumption for end users will be enhanced. Electricity boasts the advantages of clean, convenient, and easy access. We bring its advantages into full play and establish a building energy consumption system with electricity consumption as the core. Finally, China Energy Research Society Carbon Neutral Industry Cooperation Center is a high-end think tank in China's energy field. We will actively participate in various activities related to global human settlements with our dedication, professionalism, experts, unique advantages, and strong capacity across all sectors, fields, and regions, and cooperate with domestic and foreign governments, enterprises, organizations, research institutes to make our due contribution to the sustainable development and a better living environment. in the world. Finally, I wish this annual section a complete success. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Huang, for your interesting presentation. Well, we'll have to move on to the next speaker, Dr. Murthy. Dr. Radhika Murthy, Director of the Center for Society and Governance from International Union for Conservation of Nature. Dr. Murthy, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Christine, and a very warm welcome to everybody to this forum. IUCN is delighted and grateful to actually co-organize this with many other partners. So I'll quickly just share a little bit about who we are. I know we're still in the process of getting to know each other. We're an intergovernmental and membership-based organization that helps shape the agenda for biodiversity and climate change through our membership resolutions. And since last year, we are very, very delighted to say that there is a specific membership category for subnational authorities where cities and subnational members can actually have voting rights to shape their biodiversity agenda and directly influence that. And then this drives a lot of other processes related to UN conventions and multilateral processes. So before I go on to talk a bit about what it is that we can actually do together, let me share with you some of the commitments we've made and how we're moving towards engaging more with cities and want to engage more with many of you who are on this forum today. We have a dedicated urban team, institutionalized financing for scaling up our work. We're setting up a team in Bonn, Germany, and working with and the three nexus, the intersections of science and knowledge, implementation, as well as policy engagement across 160 countries. We are now increasingly working more and more with subnational authorities on policy setting, on doing more work in urban areas, in cities, and also making sure that we take all of that knowledge and generate benchmarks that can help other cities join this movement of enabling greener, nature-positive cities. And several of our resolutions have very specific commitments and targets and working with cities. So for IUCN, the International Union for Conservation of Nature, it's imperative that we actually work with cities to get there. And what it is that we can do together, well, to become nature positive, cities need to address the broader ecological footprints, as mentioned by several of the speakers in the opening ceremony. IUCN has about 75 years of experience in working in rural and peri-urban spaces, and we're very keen to provide technical expertise as well as practical but feasible approaches for collective action with cities at scale to work on this nexus, to work on this broader ecological footprint. Technical frameworks and tools such as nature-based solutions can help us get there. And I really encourage you to attend that thematic session 3A, where our program officer for urban, Loredana, is going to speak a bit about the nature-based solution standard and the opportunities it provides for us to be able to do that. And then secondly, very important, ambitions of the global biodiversity framework, whatever is about to come out of Montreal, cannot be achieved without cooperating with cities. So IUCN is committed to building long-term collaborations with cities to help you bring your contributions to the global biodiversity framework. We encourage cities to join our conservation union through the membership category and really work together at scale. But it's not just about what it is in for nature. It's not just about our biodiversity targets. Nature is our ally. It looks after us when we look after it. So working together, cities stand to benefit a lot. The people living in these spaces stand to benefit a lot. And you know this, that by enabling greener cities, by enabling more natural spaces, by looking after natural and modified ecosystems in urban spaces, we can improve quality of life and well-being, we can reduce health risks, and importantly, we can enable greater social cohesion, all of which helps us move towards the shared vision of a safer and greener urban future. So very delighted to be part of this opening, part of this global forum, and we really look forward to working together with all of you to take our ambitions to scale and make sure that our collaborations that are established are long-term, lasting, and move towards sustainable and greener cities. Thank you very much.
Thank you very